everyone, it's the Wise Bubbler here, and today I'm going to finish off my series on building an upvoting app with Xano and Bubble. I'll be continuing based on my last two videos, so if you haven't watched part 1 and part 2, definitely check them out. Alright, so now that we have configured our API connections, our Xano database, let's focus on the front end. I built a very simple UI for this. And here I have, let's just go over our API connections. We have get all post, which gets all this post, and I'll go over why this parameter is important. Then we have create a post, and the last thing we have is upvote. So let's see how those play in. So let's start with a repeating group of posts. So over here I have a repeating group, all posts, and this is a get all post data type. And then I'll just get data from external API and Xano API connection, get all posts, it's the only one. And the update, so remember we had this parameter. This is essentially, I'm going to make it a state. So I'm going to I created a state on the repeating group. So I just clicked add new state, and I call it update. Let's call it update state, and let's make it a text. And then when I call this Xano get all posts, I'm going to actually reference that state that I just created. So I'm going to do repeating group, get all posts, update state. We'll go over how and why that matters later on. So the next thing we are going to do is you can fill out all the child data, and that will be like parent groups get all posts. Title, we have the option of a title, description, upvotes, ID, created at, and here I'll put the description. And then here's where the upvote container is. And here I just have a icon, and this will be the parent groups get all posts update. So let's see what we have so far. Okay, cool. So we can see that we're getting all the posts. I have some empty posts in my database, which is why the title and description aren't showing up. But everything else looks good to me so far. The next thing is we will work on a workflow. So what I'm going to do, because I don't have any user data and I don't know what someone upvoted, I have no login. If someone upvotes a post, what I want to do is I want to send it to the URL to know that they upvoted it. And then I want to highlight this upvote. And if they click it again, I want to remove it from the URL and take off an upvote. So you can't just upvote, test post 5 times. So we're going to save in the URL. It's not like a secure way. You can find your ways around it if you just delete it from the URL, but it's just a very simple way to have kind of an upvote interface without actually requiring authentication and sign up. So let's go over how we do that. So first of all, I created these 2 hidden variables. Now, hidden variables are just groups within a pop-up where I store some values. So over here, I have a group of our upvoted items. And this is just going to be a text. This is going to be the parameter I'm sending to the URL. Okay? It's just literally plain text. Nothing important here. Over here, this is a repeating group. It's just with 1 row and 1 column. And this is going to be getting data from the URL. So we're going to get group var upvoted items text. So I'll rewrite this. What we're getting is everything we're storing in the URL. And what we're going to store is the unique IDs of each post that we upvote. So if I upvote test post, it's going to throw the unique ID of test posts up here. And if I click on it again, it'll remove it from the URL. If I click on this and then this, it will throw those both IDs in the URL. And where I'm going to store those IDs is I'm going to store them in a hidden variable, a URL value. And that's going to be a repeating group. So it's a repeating group of text. And I'm going to do it like this. Get data from page URL. And the parameter is going to be the text I save here. So it's going to be group var upvoted items text. I'll change that name to group var URL parameter. Cool. And that will give me a list of text, and I'm going to say each item. Cool. And then I'm going to split them. So I'm going to do split by, I'm going to put a comma, and then I'm going to do each item and I'm going to trim. Now, why do you have to do this? Apparently Bubble adds a special character. By the way, all these tips, this URL parameter and some of the repeating group tips are by LEBG. So check him out on Twitter. Huge shout out to him. Literal Bubble legend. Okay, so essentially I'm going to get all the data. I'm going to get all the IDs from the URL. I'm going to split them by commas so that I have them in a proper list. And I'm going to do each item trimmed, which takes off like the end character that Bubble adds in the URL. Cool. Now we have all the posts here, all the IDs saved here. So we can reference it throughout the app by saying repeating group var upvoted items. So that's how we do the upvoting, and let's go into the upvoting workflow. So the way we're going to do the workflow is when we click on get all posts, we are going to check with repeating group var upvoted items. List of text contains parent group's posts ID. And if it does contain, then we are going to go to page. We're going to go to this page, index, and we are going to send parameter, and the parameter will be upvoted. That's what we saved in that group var, where we save the parameter. And what we are going to do is, again, contact repeating group upvoted items, list of text, and we're going to do minus item and parent group post ID. So we're essentially taking everything that's in URL and taking that, we're sending back the list of items and we're minusing our current item. And then we are going to copy this workflow and do the opposite, basically saying if it doesn't contain parent groups get all posts ID, so if it doesn't contain that posts ID, the URL doesn't contain that ID, then we are going to do plus item. Perfect. All right, so we have the upvoting mechanism there. Let's test it out. Cool. All right, so it's putting that upvote there, and if I click it again, it's taking it off, and if I click this, I can see that it's adding something there. If I click this, it takes it off. Now, the one thing we're not doing is we're not calling the upvote API call, which is what we need to do to actually change the number of upvotes. So we're going to go to plugins, and we're going to click upvote, and we're going to put in the post that we need to change. So that's going to be parent group post ID. And then we are going to put in the increment that we want to move the upvotes by. So in this case, it contains, so we're going to do -1. Whoa, -1. And I'm going to just copy this, put this here, move this here, and do 1. So if it doesn't contain this post, it's going to increment it by 1. Let's test this out. Well, that didn't work. Yes, because it's not updating. So we need to refresh the page, and then we can see that updated 1. And I'll go over why this is important. So why did we add that extra parameter to the get all post, to that repeating group of get all posts? If you remember correctly, over here, we had this repeating group. Let's go back to that repeating group. We had this repeating group of get all posts, and we had this extra parameter here. And so all we need to do to update the repeating group is when we click this, we're just going to set the state of the repeating group to a different item. So we're going to literally click set state of an element, and then we are going to choose repeating group get all posts, and we're going to choose update state, and we're going to do current date and time. We just need a random item, so this doesn't really matter. Simplified item, so whatever. And we will copy this and then put it here, and now we will see that the updating works in real time. So if I click this, we can see that it's changing. If I click this, it updates the upvotes. Perfect. All right, let's move on. Now let's focus on publishing a post. So when the inputs are filled, we will click publish. And publishing a post, we will call that API call that we created for create a new post. We will put in here input suggestion title, and here I'll put input suggestion description value, and the upvotes will be 1. So we'll assume that you upvoted this item, and then we will go to page, and we will automatically upvote, add the upvote, that one upvote, because probably you're going to upvote your own item. And so we'll again call the repeating group the saved variable of items and list of text, and we will add plus item, and that's going to be result of step 1's ID. So the item we just created, ID. And then the last thing we're going to do is reset relevant inputs, and that should be it. All right, let's see how this works. And if we click publish, cool. Oh, then we forgot one thing here, and that is to set the state of the repeating group so that it updates that repeating group. So we're going to set the state of repeating group get all posts, and we're going to set that update status so that it refreshes that repeating group. And we're going to do current date and time, formatted as, and this is just to get a literal, unique value. It really doesn't matter what you put here. And we also need to make go to page the last thing. Cool. Let's try this again. Now that we refresh, we'll see the actual suggestion we created before. But let's do this one more time. Shift 6 and description. Cool. And if we click publish, test suggestion 6 comes up here, and we should have been able to upvote it. No, I see we got the parameter name wrong on that first try. Let's try this again. Test suggestion 8, and let's do description. All right, so we can see test suggestion 8 is here, and then we can upvote other items, and it will add those upvotes, and we can unupvote an item, and it'll bring it down. So that is in summary how to create an upvoting app with Xano. Again, this is not how I would use Xano. Usually I would use Xano for heavy data operations. This was just an intro to Xano. Overall, I really liked it. The problem with it is they don't have such a great, generous free plan since they rate limit you. So you can only do, I think, up to 10 API calls every 20 seconds. But if you need to refresh a repeating group, constantly, and you're doing a lot of actions on the app, the free version doesn't work so well. But I see huge potential in Xano being incredibly valuable in the future of building highly scalable apps where you have heavy data manipulation. So overall, I really like Xano. I'm going to continue creating videos on it. But again, it's not for every app. Most apps are fine with just Bubble. Another huge advantage of Xano that I will go into later is just how flexible the database is. So a lot of stuff that you would need to kind of find workarounds for on Bubble, you can do pretty easily on Xano. You can do very complex queries on the data. So it's really kind of a next level on top of Bubble. So if you're getting bored with Bubble and you want to do more advanced, heavy database heavy operations, I would definitely use Xano. And I am actually really focusing on learning it as my next level up tool for myself. I work full time as a Bubble developer. And I feel this is kind of my next step. A lot of people go towards JavaScript, but for me, I really don't like coding. So this is definitely kind of a step up. I will be releasing a paid link to my Bubble editor. Unfortunately, it won't include Xano in it. It will just be the editor of this, Xano doesn't have a way for me to expose their API publicly, but if you did like this video and want to support me, definitely check it out. Thanks again for watching, and this will be live. So if you have a suggestion for a video, this actual URL or a different URL for this exact app will be live, where you can actually make suggestions for my YouTube channel and I will listen to them. And yeah, definitely suggest whatever you're interested in. Thanks again for watching, and yeah.